What is a MODA? In short, it's a new type of game. If you're curious if Fellowship is right for you, you're in the right spot. Time to lean back and dial in. Howdy. Today we're going to try something a little different. I'm going to use Procreate here to explain what a MODA is and what the basic gameplay loop is, what the process is for progressing through the game. First, what does MODA stand for? It is a multiplayer online dungeon adventure. Okay, so multiplayer online, you're going to be playing this on your computer with other players. Okay, this isn't a solo play game. The other part, dungeon adventure, is where people get a little confused. A lot of games are multiplayer and a lot of games are online, but very, very few games are you working with a team of people trying to accomplish a goal that isn't necessarily like a race or a first-person shooter. In these kind of games, you have roles, and your job is to complete the content. The content in this case is a dungeon. The goals for successfully completing that is threefold. One, you want to get to the end of the content with your team, okay, and that within a time frame. So there's speed involved here. It's kind of like a race. The other is on your way to the end of the dungeon, you want to defeat a certain amount of enemies, whether it's a percent of enemies or a number of enemies, varies depending on what game you're playing. But you want to defeat a certain amount of enemies. You can't just run past and skip everything. And then the third goal is at the end of each of these encounters is a boss, which is like an enemy that has more mechanics, is more difficult and intricate, and has more stuff going on. It takes a little bit longer. And once you complete those three things, you've completed this instance of content, this dungeon. And you work with your teams and your buddies to get that done. The way you do that is different. In first-person shooters, you're shooting people. In races, you're driving your car, controlling where you are on the track. In this type of game, you have a role. You're either a tank, a damage dealer, or a healer, and your job from moment to moment changes depending on what that role is. So we're going to go through the roles and talk through the basic gameplay loop of a combat encounter in one of these MODAs in either World of Warcraft, Mythic Plus, or Fellowship. So first, we're going to start with the tank. This is my favorite. This is what I play most. In World of Warcraft, I play a prot warrior. In Fellowship, I'm probably going to be playing Helena mostly. We're going to use the little shield icon as the tank. The tank's job is to be the aggressor, to kind of lead the party and to enter conflict first. Their job is to get the attention of the enemies and stay alive. They are supporting the rest of the party by by being the punching bag, by taking the brute force and using their special abilities of defense and self mitigation to stay alive. All right, so the way an encounter happens is the tank runs in, and we're going to use these red enemies and this frowny face as the enemies. All right, and the tank gets the attention of the enemies. All right, and they all gather around the tank. All right. And now the tank's getting hit. Okay, these guys aren't just punching bags; they're fighting back. They're swinging their swords. They're throwing their punches. They're casting their magic spells. They're shooting arrows. And the tank this whole time is making sure their shields up, making sure they're using their abilities to increase their toughness, or in World of Warcraft and as a protection where you're trying to generate rage so that you can cast spells like Ignore Pain and Shield Block so that you can so that you can continue to mitigate as much of that damage as possible. Up next is the damage dealers. They're the offense. Okay, if the tank and the healer are the defense of your team, the damage dealers are the offense. We're going to use this guy. Their job is to come in and then destroy or beat the enemies. Um, in all these games, the way you defeat an enemy is you reduce their hit points to 0. Okay, every creature, including your fellow players and the enemies on the screen, has a health bar, a number of hit points, and when that reaches 0, then they pass out, or they die, or they dissipate into smoke, whatever they do. But that's how you defeat them. So their job is to come in and do as much damage as possible so that we can defeat these enemies as quickly as possible. Now, it's more complicated than hold right trigger to shoot or press A to attack. Um, these guys, including the tanks and healers, have a number of abilities, upwards of 10 or more buttons on their keyboard and mouse that they use to kind of orchestrate their rotation and what they're doing at any given time. An example of this, to keep it simple, let's say the Hulk is on your team. His job is to come in and beat everybody up, right? Hulk smash. He can punch as much as he wants. He can kick, but he can only kick every 5 seconds. And then he can do a ground smash, which is a lot of damage to everyone around, right? And so he wants to do that ground smash, but he can only ground smash every 2 times that he kicks. So what he does, he runs in behind the tank, he punches, and then every 5 seconds he makes sure to kick, and then every second kick he makes sure to also ground smash. So that's a really, really simplified way to look at this. But that's what he's doing, is he's going in and trying to press those buttons in those orders to defeat the enemies. In Fellowship, they are 2 DPS. In World of Warcraft, they are 3. And so there are other people doing the same thing. They might not be Hulk. They might be Iron Man. And so instead of being right up personal, he's in the back shooting his jet propulsors or rockets. Or he's Hawkeye shooting arrows. Okay? But their job's the same. Their job is to defeat the enemies so that they can move on to the next encounter and eventually make it to the end of the dungeon. Now there's a third role, the healer. Their job is to keep everyone alive. Remember that the enemies are attacking us, and they're also pretty good at their jobs. So the healer's job is to keep everyone standing. The tank is always taking damage, so the healer's always going to be trying to heal up the wounds of Helena or Brochdale, the Prot warrior, and help him stay in the fight, or help them stay in the fight. But there are also times when everyone is taking unavoidable damage, right? One of these enemies might be an evil sorcerer and casts Fireball, and everyone takes fire damage. The healer wants the damage dealers, wants Hulk and Iron Man to stay fighting. So what the healer does is the healer focuses on rejuvenating and healing the tank, or the tank and the DPS in themselves, so they can continue being in the fight. They act as the other form of the defense. All right, and that's really it. That's how combat works. That's what the roles are. So as you're watching or as you're playing the game, that's always what's happening. The gameplay loop is go in, create combat, the tank gets threat, keeps the attention of the enemies, the damage dealers come in behind and just start waylaying on the enemies, and the healer is in the back, or maybe even sometimes in the middle, trying to make sure everyone's staying alive so that the enemies don't win. Okay. The way the larger scale gameplay loop works is these dungeons are typically scaling. So you do one on difficulty 1, and then once you do that, you want to do it on the next difficulty up, okay? Where the enemies have more health and do more damage, but also maybe have more abilities or cast their abilities faster. Maybe you want to do the same dungeon during a sleet storm, right? Where it's harder because you're slipping around everywhere, okay? Affixes. So you want to do it at higher levels of difficulty. But to do that, you have to be stronger. And you can get stronger in a couple of ways. Practice, but the main way to get stronger is to gear up. At the ends of each of these dungeons, you get like treasure chests with magic items, and you can equip that magic sword so that next time you swing it does more damage, or magic armor so that you can take more hits, or a magic staff that lets you heal more. Okay, that kind of thing. So you're going through these dungeons. You get equipment, you get stronger, and then you get to do the same dungeon again with maybe a few different affixes at a harder, higher level difficulty. And the goal of the game is to play, have fun with your friends, and then see how high a difficulty you can go. And that's what a MODA is. That is what a multiplayer online dungeon adventure is. And that's what I'm going to be playing starting Thursday with Fellowship. I hope that this helped. I hope that this little illustration was beneficial. If this helped, drop a like. It helps people find the videos. And if it really helped you, feel free to subscribe. That helps me and encourages me to make more videos. You can also find me on Twitch at twitch.tv/Brochdale.